Hi, so welcome to Unlock one more time. So today we have a special guest here, Julia. So when I first started in running a business, it was 2018. It was late 2018, and it was very interesting because I had zero experience. And I remember I opened my office in Dallas, Arlington, Texas, and I was moving from San Antonio. So I remember this 4-hour drive with like everything packed up into my car, and I remember thinking like, dude, I forgot everything. I forgot everything I ever learned, and I don't know. It was all luck, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I was so panicked. And I remember the first day of operations, which was December 3rd, 2018. I had just my 4 people that had traveled with me from San Antonio to run an office, and I was there, and I was like supposed to run an office. And I remember Julia was there, and I was like, Julia, it's like, are you running a meeting? She was like, no, because this is your first meeting. It's so important that you run it. And I'll never forget, and I don't know what I said, and it doesn't matter because it was terrible. But, I'm really thankful to Julia because she was with me throughout my whole first year, probably second year as well, right after COVID happened. And, it was really my beginning of having from 0 to 12 people. I remember I couldn't have more than 12 people in the office to save my life. And I was really working hard the whole time. I was working Sundays. I was working a lot, and things just seem so much harder than they are today. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But this is Julia, and I think it's cool that she's here today because she can kind of bring to light all the changes she's seen. And she was in business way before me, and she's still in business now, and she's seen the way before COVID and after COVID. So thank you, Julia, for coming. So isn't it cool that we're recording the podcast and we used to just we were like selling sheets.
Come a long way, yeah, for sure.
We were selling sheets.
Making announcements on the intercom.
In
for
Walmart.
free gifts, yeah. I think there's an interesting perspective because I've known you since you were a rep in the field and you came to Dallas to get training on heat pack. No, heat pack.
Oh, it's someone here, yeah.
Yeah, heat packs.
With this actor guy.
Yeah.
You know him?
Yes.
Ethan.
Yeah, he's great.
He's great.
But I've known you through this whole transition of time and period of growth and development and all these different things. And there's some things that you do, I think, a lot differently than other people that have made you really successful. And the first thing that I saw when I was in your office in 2018 was just how much you genuinely care about people. It was evident because someone would come in and want to have a dinner, or they would say, hey, my girlfriend doesn't understand what we're doing, and you'd be like, well, where is she? Where's she work? It was like so brash, and if you kind of turned off, they'd be like, what do you mean? Like, remember that one guy who was like, his girlfriend worked at the bar, and you're like, well, let's meet her tonight, let's go there for dinner. And you that night went to the place where that girl worked and had dinner with her boyfriend so she could join you and explain what we did. And I thought that was just really interesting because I had never seen someone take that kind of action so fast to get someone else on board. And I know it also hasn't worked in your favor because, sometimes stuff comes out and you get in trouble for it. But as you've grown and evolved, you've watched it more and you've really figured it out. And unfortunately, some of those skeletons follow you. But I think if those people knew you today, you'd be a whole different person than when they knew you 5 or 6 years ago when you just started and you were just blurting out random stuff and maybe getting yourself into trouble because of what you thought. But I
remember the first guy we retained for more than 3 days, and you were telling me like, you're killing me because I made the whole meeting about him.
That's right.
I made the whole
announcement.
And when you're known, you will be a reason. And he was like, and I think he went to the bathroom and
never came back.
Yeah. I was like, and you were like, you killed the new guy with so much attention. And I was like,
it was like that.
Got one.
The Tommy Boy, where you're just like breaking that mold apart for you.
Yeah.
I love it. Every announcement, every shout out, every you announced it.
You guys were all like him.
You guys were like, oh my god, this is crazy. But that's number one. Just the amount of care you have. I remember having conversations with other important people in business and saying this guy's going to be unbelievable because of just how much he genuinely cares about people. And it's still true to this day. You've emulated that through a lot of big guys and a lot of people. And you've retained a staff of people now for years that shows a lot of care because you don't turn over your internal staff. Like, they stay and they keep growing, which I think is really cool. The second thing is that when we handed out those gratitude books, I think it was 2020.
Yeah.
You were the only owner that did it. So I threw up that challenge.
I bought a second one.
Airbnb, right? And you were like, hey, anybody who sends me this, every day is going to grow, or whatever we said. And every morning we'd get that text, and I would get the text, and it would be like, we would get on you about how long you slept, right? You'd be like, slept 4.5 hours more, but this is unhealthy. Like, you need to sleep more. And then underneath it would be what you were thankful for the day, and then it would be 3 gratitudes, and then it would be
One of those, yeah.
the first thing, the first goal on there was always like, eat 2 fruits. Remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
Be healthy. Eat
Open
fruit.
a surf school in Hawaii. That was always on there. Marry your current wife was always on there, right? And it's crazy if you save that book. You should publish that book or put it on Instagram or something so people can see, like how consistent you were with setting those goals and how many of them you've actually achieved. It would be interesting to look back and highlight the ones that you actually did do. 5 years later or 4 years later, or whatever it was, but every day until that book was completed, you filled it out and sent it to us.
It's cool. Yeah, you're right. And I was talking one of these days about reading and stuff like that, and I was like, man, I think the last day, well, I don't think, I know, the last day I didn't read was March 31st of 2023, because I was so pissed that I just didn't read that day. And it was like, I remember thinking the next day, it's so hard to like not, it's so hard when you miss something. Like you get so upset just for breaking the streak that I remember thinking, well, now I'm just not, like the immature thought of like, well, now I'm just not going to read for the rest of the year because what's the point? Stupid. But yeah, thanks for reminding me that is true. I still have those books. I have it there, and I pulled it out to a leaders meeting not too long ago because I was telling people like, look, when you do a daily game plan, the first thing you write at the top is like your long-term goal, and then maybe like a daily or short-term goal. And you always start with that. And I remember writing it down, and I didn't know that such cool. Well, I think I just matured. But I did marry Monica, and I did do most. I remember it said like, I'm gonna be an NC, and I'm gonna open 2 offices this year, and and I look back and I'm like, wow, I did all of those things. So.
And at the time, they probably seemed really out of reach.
So out of reach.
Because you had what? You had 1 guy or 2 guys going door to door, and we're learning a whole new program and doing all this new stuff, and it seemed like lofty. It was like, this is probably goals that are going to take me years to accomplish, and it didn't. But it did take time and effort and energy. So why do you think so many people get discouraged along the way or don't have a level of consistency that you have with some of that stuff? Because that's really the difference maker, is consistency.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you don't know. Whether you don't have the consistency, I don't know, because it is really the only separator. That when I was talking to this guy earlier in there, and he was like kind of like respecting you so much that it's almost like you make it impossible for me to be with you and teach you. And I was thinking to myself, like, I don't do anything special. It's just, and so it's for you. You just do it every day, and it's just, it's impossible to do something for 1,000 days and not be really good at it. And I always thought about that. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do this 1,000 times over, and eventually. And I think I learned that in the field, right? You learn it selling. It's like you eventually pick something enough, and you will sell it. And so, I think maybe we should be better, like you said, at posting things or helping people see, like, well, you see the results now, but what happened 2 years ago that manifested it and stuff like that. So I guess maybe to ask you back, so when you look at all of that batch of people before COVID, and a lot of them left after, and then you've been working with a whole different group of people probably after COVID, plus a few that stayed, what difference did you see that make? And like, how did people change the way they look at their own business, or did you see any changes, or what has changed?
I think
what stayed the same?
Yeah, I think what stayed the same is it still takes the same level of energy, urgency, focus, all those things to get ahead in anything. I don't think that there's ever like a shorter way to do a lot of work. Like, you just have to always put in the time to do it. I think the difference today than back then is it's so much easier to make money. So it was harder to retain people when they struggled for so long to just get to 6 figures, when it took 2 or 3 or 4 years to get to a 6-figure income, and only really high achieving people could get there quicker. Now, I see people 6 months in making 6 figures, so it's so much easier to retain someone when they see that you make money quicker. So I think we just have better clients. I think better systems. I think we have better training. We're utilizing more resources and, networking and all that stuff. I think, it's not just so singular to like, this is our industry. We're not so insular anymore. I think you go to Las Vegas and go to a training seminar that has nothing to do with this industry, but is industry related.
Yeah.
Tracy's here. He just went to a seminar from an author of a book that has nothing to do with what we do, but has a lot to do with what we do. So I think we, as a generation in this business or this industry in general, just got really good at looking outside of the bubble and saying, okay, what books can help us? What seminars can help us? What other people in different areas can help us? And it became, if you want to do it in business, you can follow anybody in business. It doesn't have to be someone with this industry. It can be anybody. And I think that really adds a lot of value because we bring in so much information and support it to other people. Everyone grows faster.
Yeah. And, you said people make so much money so fast. And I want to point out, a lot of it is like the clients we work with, the lifetime value. So it's something that I've been hearing a lot lately. It's the value of the customer for that client. It's just thousands and thousands of dollars higher than when we worked 4, 5, 6 years ago. I remember we were selling tickets for the Texas Rangers, which is cool.
Yeah.
It was great. You work for the Texas Rangers and you're like helping them fill out the stadium. But it really...
But you had to get like 25 lessons to get $100.
You gotta get so many sales to make such little money versus now selling higher ticket or selling just higher value stuff helps a lot. And so when you've seen people they make 6 figures a lot quicker, do you see a trend on, or do you not see a trend on, do you think that level of speed of money, do you think it sometimes changes the person or just maybe reveals who they were before? Because I sometimes get scared. I was telling you earlier, like, people make so much money so fast, it could be bad. And I know it's not, it's the person. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a tough one because I don't think that money has the power to, it's just an object. It doesn't have the power to do anything. It gives you options for sure, but I think your core self stays the same. So I think if you're already kind of a challenging person, money just makes you have a louder voice and be more challenging, right? And more people have to listen to you, which is kind of sad. But if you're already like a good person that has a good heart and you have a good intention and you have good focus, then money just gives you an opportunity to help more people and to spread that. I don't know that it can definitely alter priority for sure. You can say, well, I have all this money, I don't need to do X, Y, and Z or whatever anymore, but then that money's gonna go away at some point. If I'm like a real estate agent and I sell 150 houses this year and I'm like, well, I have all this money, I don't need to sell any houses anymore. I better figure out how to teach them how to sell houses or my money's gonna disappear as soon as it's gone. Same thing in business. It's like you can make 150 grand this year, but that doesn't mean you're gonna make it next year if you take your foot up the gas. You gotta have that same kind of drive, and not everybody does, and that's okay. But it's not like the system doesn't work. Like, it works. You made the money. Just got to figure out if you want to continue to make it or you don't want to continue to make it, no problem. But I do think the more good people you can put into business, the better. Because those people will help charities, they'll help families, they'll do the right thing, they'll, try to make a difference in some way. And if you put not so great people in business, you're kind of like, oh, how do I try to hold this person, see that what they're doing is damaging or hurtful to other people, or, bring up, like, you could be doing this better, whatever.
So how long have you been in business now?
I've been doing consulting for almost a little over 11 years. I ran a company for 6.
So it's 17 total?
Like 18
or
in
is it
January.
like, so it's been 11 since you were in office already?
Yeah, 11 years. Yeah.
Okay. And have you started single when you were single or you were dating?
Single.
And so how have your goals moved so now you're mom, married. Can you talk a little bit, starting single and where your life, did you hit your goals? Like, have your goals changed?
Yeah, I think my priority was always to make some type of impact, like in some way, or live my best life, and helping with people. So when I ran a business and put people, I've met a lot of great people through this industry. Some in this industry, some are not in this industry. They're still all over, right? I think every person has a ton of potential. When I got to a point where it was time for me, I wanted to raise a family, it was really important for me. And I know this isn't for everybody, so this is not like a recommendation. I'm just saying, for me personally, I wanted to make sure I was there for their first 5 years because I know that the brain development in that time is so crucial in a child. I've been working with adults for 7 or 8 years that came with a lot of trauma. You know, not every adult, but a lot of people who hire, you know, I've hired hundreds of people, and a lot of them, not a lot, I would say some of them carried through a lot of pain, you know, or things that I think maybe could have been avoided had they had a parent or a team around them that was really positive. And in my head, I was like, am I going to pay a nanny who I trust because they're great nannies? Maybe I'm just too cheap. I was like, am I going to pay a nanny $25 an hour that can speak 2 languages, that can, you know, mentor my child that has a great attitude, or do I want to do that myself? And look them in the eye, have a conversation when things aren't going right, and explain it to them, and be able to dig deep into what the issue is, and, you know, be there for them. And I probably just, the truth is I'm probably just a little bit too cheap to be like, I'm going to pay someone $50,000 a year to do this for me, when I felt like it was something that I wanted to do myself.
Yeah.
So the priority became raising unbelievable human beings, which it's in the process, so don't grade me yet.
How old are your little girls now?
I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old.
She's 10.
I know.
That's crazy.
So that, I mean, the goal is for them to...
Is it easier?
be-
I'm a new dad. Is it easier
The
at 6 and
problems
10?
change, you know, the problems change. I don't know the parenting ever gets easier because you're always thinking about it. And if you're really intentional, I don't know that it gets easier. I think some things get easier, but some things get harder, right? The problems just change, they evolve, they're just different. But I think if you always gotta kind of feel like there's more.
So 6 and 10, so there was a moment that they were 0 and 4, 1 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
1 and 5 sounds awesome. Sounds so fun.
It's been, I mean, it's the most rewarding thing ever.
Yeah.
It's also challenging, you know, but it challenges you in different ways because they're, you know, your kids are essentially given to you as strangers. And you have to figure out how to raise these people that aren't you,
It's crazy.
that are so different, right? And you got to figure out how can I bring out the best in this person that's not me, and figure that out. And I mean, I've read personality books and all this different stuff, which has really helped me, but it's just the patience level that I learned running a business has helped me tremendously in parenting. Because I became incredibly impatient. And this industry and running business and working with people made me patient, which then helped me in my parenting journey of really thinking, I'm not perfect, but thinking before I speak, or like really, you know, thinking about, okay, how can I handle this in a way that's going to be helpful instead of hurtful, you know?
That's so cool. I remember when she was born, you first.
Yeah, she was great. I mean, she was born in 2018, so she was 3 months old when I came to your office.
Yeah, I remember. And
Yeah.
that's why you were probably once a week or twice as hard,
Yeah.
because you were in the middle. You were in, yes, I remember now. You needed to lock yourself in a room.
Yeah, because pumping milk, yeah.
That was nice.
It's fine, I mean.
Yeah, no, I mean,
But
my
I was-
wife did it for a year and a half. I keep Googling, like, how long did she stay? And it says it takes 6 months, but because most moms are going back to work. So it
Yeah.
actually takes it
And
until.
everyone has different circumstances. Some people can't, you know. Some people, I was lucky where it was something I could do, it was something that was right for us. But
And
it's
it's
not
the
for everybody.
natural thing. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's just not for everybody, though.
It's so fun. That's so fun. That's so fun. And so now you have a 10-year-old. So like you realize that she's halfway through 18. So what do you think about having an 18-year-old?
I'm excited, you know, I'm really excited because I know like the majority of your child's life, you're their friend as a parent. So like my goal is to be a good enough parent where they want to hang out when they're adults. I'm like,
Volunteer.
You voluntarily, right? I told my husband that this morning. I was like, I hope that when like Thanksgiving or Christmas rolls around and they're in relationships, they're like, we want to go to, you know, Julia and Andrew's house because we know we're safe there. It's a fun environment. They're really positive and it's great. Like that's my goal, is for us to be the one that they want to come to. And I'm sure there someday in-laws will be great, but I want to be someone that they want to hang out with. And if they're like, I need to do something fun, I want to call my mom. I want to go to this, I'm going to call my mom, you know? And like, I think that's the goal as a parent, is to raise kids who are good citizens, who are nice and kind, and do their best and try to be positive and aren't too hard on themselves, make an impact, whatever. But you also want them to want to hang out with you.
Yeah. That's a good frame. It's a good frame.
Because what if they don't, you know?
Right, if they don't, then that's it also. It communicates a lot too. So, okay, and so now you're still active in business, and I know that you work with, you're launching, you do divisions, you run it by yourself and stuff like that. So, do you have any business goals still for the next few years that you're like really on top of?
Yeah.
I feel like your workload has gone maybe even up in the next, because you probably did more relief because your children are older.
Yes. Yeah, and I have more time. Yeah,
Yeah.
so both in school now. So when they were really little, they were less in school, and my hands were, I felt like I was working around the clock for sure. Now that they're both in school, time's freed up a bit. And I had a little, you know, I had some, my mom lived here for 5 years and my little was born, so that helped me a ton. And that was great to have a multi-generational, you know, knowledge. Yeah, it was great. I know your parents do that a lot too. They come to be some.
My dad's coming Monday.
Yeah, there's no replacement for that. Like truly, it's just a magical relationship kids have with their grandparents. It's like so fun. But my goals now are to just help as many people as possible. My internal goal is to change the perspective about sales in general. I think a lot of people have negative perception on sales, and a lot of times in business and in general, you know, the negatives speak louder than the positives, and the negatives are warranted. Some sales companies are awful, and they give you, you know, crap stuff, but not everyone. And there's a lot that are good, and I think if I can help change that narrative and share people's stories, you know, I'm working on projects to do that and help with that. Provide tools and resources, you know, through Instagram to help people that maybe don't have access to the coaching, like give them some good coaching they can find for free that, you know, they can develop and get that stuff. And then on top of that, you know, we're working with charities, and our goal is to be able to bring in over $200,000. And this is, you know, Jess V, who's unbelievable, has been leading the pack and to be supporting her through this, which has been amazing. But to create a charity program by the end of the year that does $200,000 in one-time gifts and $20,000 in monthly recurring revenue every week. So that hopefully by next year, millions and millions of dollars towards something good, because it's just a good feeling about helping people. So I think that's just sort of a goal all through. It's just, for a while I had to really help my kids, right? And now I can kind of, they're at school, they're getting help there, so now I can kind of go back to a little bit more intensity of helping people.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
So, just to wrap it up, do you want to tell if these guys wanted to follow you? I know you have a new Instagram. How do we find you?
Yeah, it's julia.bizstories on Instagram. So it's my first name.
At julia.biz.
Stories. Yeah.
Stories.
You can go on there, and I just have a ton of resources. So I'll put like podcasts on there, and I do a podcast. And my main point is just giving more resources to business owners. That's my number one focus, because they're just, you know, again, outside resources I think are so powerful in this industry that every industry needs more resources, always. So I just interviewed, you know, a guy who runs a psychology practice, a real estate gal, a person that started his own AI company, like all these other businesses that run into the same challenges we do. They run into the same obstacles. They run into the same self-doubt. They run into the same negatives, and it's just good to see it's not unique, you know.
One of the things I learned at this meeting that I went to in Vegas, it was the guy was just saying nowadays, like with the generation and the cell phones, and people are spending so many hours on their screen.
Yeah.
It's just you have to have consistent proof and evidence and proof and evidence. It's like, and that we recorded this video. I don't know if you've seen it. You see the video with all the owners.
Yes,
where you use it for the interview process, because it's like just proof after proof after proof after proof after proof after proof that whatever we're saying works versus you saying anything.
Right, so you're saying people make $100,000. Some people are watch this and be like, no way. Yeah, right. I doubt it. It's like,
but you have a video of
but
message people saying it.
Message us. We'll send you 3 financials. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't believe it, be like, you're full of crap. We'll send you we'll black out the name. We'll send you a screenshot of the financial, or we'll send you a contact. You can contact somebody, but it's like seeing is for sure believing. And I think the more evidence that's out there, the less convincing you have to do, right? Because it's like the results speak for themselves. It's not like a theory.
Well, thanks.